Hey guys, it is Carly, and I am here to bring you day number 1 of my first ever 31 days of horror. I'm excited to start doing this, and hopefully I will get through it all. That is the goal. So anyway, this year I decided to do an actual Halloween theme, where obviously there's a million horror movies in the world, but I like making themes out of things, so I wanted to do movies that are set on Halloween or have like a part in them where kids are trick-or-treating, or like just anything to do with Halloween within the movie. That's what I wanted to do because I figured it would help me get more into the mood of Halloween and October and all that, and it would be just really interesting to find other movies besides the Halloween franchise that have Halloween settings. And with that being said, I am going to be doing the Halloween franchise within this just because it's my first year doing it and I'm not really used to giving reviews, so I figured incorporating the actual Halloween franchise would be an easy start for me. So what I'm going to do is do like one Halloween movie, then one random movie with a Halloween setting, and I'm just going to kind of go back and forth throughout. So the first movie I'm going to be doing is Halloween from 1978, and obviously everyone knows the plot, but I'll just tell it anyway. Basically, 15 years after murdering his sister, Michael Myers returns to his hometown of Haddonfield to kill again, and after escaping a mental hospital. But anyway, I figured I'll just give some of my likes and then some of my dislikes. Don't really have a lot of dislikes, but kind of nitpicky aspects to it that I noticed while watching it from a reviewer's perspective. It's been a couple years, actually, I think, since I've watched this one. I don't really watch it every single year because I don't want it to wear out on me, so I give it some time, but rewatching it was a nice experience. I do love Halloween. It's one of the first horror movies I ever saw, and I grew up watching it over and over again. Even out of the Halloween season, I would just come home from school and pop this in. I just thought it was a great movie, and I thought it was really scary. Right off the bat, the opening credits are awesome with the pumpkin and it coming up saying like John Carpenter's Halloween. Like, I always loved that. And then you got the theme music playing, and that's something that all the Halloween movies do really well, is their opening credits. It really sets the mood for you're about to be watching a Halloween themed film, so I really appreciate that. And then when you get into the first opening scene, obviously where Michael is kind of outside just stalking and waiting for his sister to be alone, I always love the music that plays, like when you see like a light go off upstairs and things like that. It always gives me the creeps because it's just really loud and unexpected, and basically, like, overall, I think the music really helps this film. Like, I'm pretty sure this was a lower budget film for the time, but the musical score really gives it that edge. I think if it did not have that music playing, it would probably just be another average horror film. But besides that, I also like just the general setting in general, that just small town, normal Haddonfield, like just a normal town where kids are out trick-or-treating and stuff like that. It reminds me of my own town, and could remind anyone of their own town, and I really like that realistic aspect. And then also I always liked just, you know, there's not like a lot of killing going on or anything like that. Not a lot really happens. It's just mainly this guy stalking out his prey throughout the whole movie, and I just love when you just see him from afar. You just see that mask of his, and I always thought that was really creepy. Now, just to get into some nitpicky details, I mean, they're not huge or anything, but just some like ridiculous things, like obviously Michael Myers driving is kind of weird since he's been locked up since he was 6. I always thought it was funny when Dr. Loomis says, like, oh, he was doing very well last night, maybe someone gave him lessons. I do like, I think that's, like, everyone thinks, like, that's a big flaw, him driving, but I think it really helps that Dr. Loomis kind of makes a joke out of it, like a sarcastic comment about it. They don't just kind of write that off and ignore it and be like, oh, hopefully no one will notice. So that always kind of saved it for me. I never really had a huge problem with him driving a vehicle. And since this was the first horror movie I've really ever seen, like first slasher movie, like I didn't realize like it was absurd for a killer to be driving. And I also like how that kind of makes Michael Myers more of a real person as opposed to like Freddy or Jason, who are like not human really. Now later in the series, Michael takes a lot of beatings that you would think he should be dead from, and they try to keep him human, which those parts are kind of ridiculous. But for the sake of this first movie, I like how he is a real person. Like, I always find that to be creepier than like the zombie or like unhuman people. Like, I just like the element of realism, so I appreciate that. And then another thing is I never really noticed before, but Annie is kind of a bitch friend. Like, she's kind of sucks. Like, everything she says is just sarcastic, and like she's always picking on Laurie for being kind of like, you know, not really an outcast, but like she doesn't really go out and put herself out there and do much. But even with that, I feel like that's realistic for people to act like that in high school. Like, I can kind of relate to that. Because you also got Linda, who's kind of that annoying, preppy friend who's all about, like, cheerleading and the dance and just all things about high school. And I feel like that is kind of what high school was like for me, where you kind of just get... Sorry, that is my phone going off. Should have silenced that. But anyway, I like how it's kind of realistic, too, because you're always kind of... When you're in high school, you kind of get stuck with just like a group of friends who you think are your real friends, but really they're just kind of people that you see every single day. So at the time, it just seems normal to hang out with them. So once again, that is realistic, and I can give that a pass. And then, you know, other small things like the girls smoking weed in the car and the cop doesn't seem to notice it at all. Like, that would be kind of impossible. And just, the fact that Michael Myers kind of walks around in plain sight with his mask on. I never really thought about this ever before until rewatching it last night, but that's kind of unrealistic, him to be walking around, even though it's like October and almost Halloween time. Like, no one finds it weird that this guy is walking around real slow with a mask on, dressed all in black and things like that. So, you know, just tiny details like that you really start to notice when you rewatch a movie like this when you're older. But besides that, I think it is a great movie. It still holds up as one of the best horror movies of all time, in my opinion. It's got the perfect Halloween atmosphere. It's one that you can watch every Halloween time. I really appreciate it because Halloween in October, that is my favorite time of year. So I always love to see a movie that captures that perfectly. So really appreciate that, and all in all, it's a great movie. I will always continue to pop this one in, probably like every other year or so, and as well as the other ones in the franchise. I really do enjoy them, but I'll get into those later on in my series. So all in all, I give this movie a 10 out of 10, despite its minor flaws. I mean, sometimes you can just look past minor flaws in a classic movie like this, because this movie just builds atmosphere, and for its budget, it did a really great job. So, really like this movie. 10 out of 10. Thank you guys for joining me on this first episode. Hopefully I did alright. Like I said, I'm not used to reviewing movies, and it's kind of hard to talk about a movie that everyone already knows about, but I'm excited to dig into other movies that I have not seen before or I don't really see reviewed too often and try to give my opinions on those. So once again, thank you guys for joining me on day number 1, and I will see you in day number 2.